everybody. My name is LexC, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have my friend NAMDEE. He's a singer, he's a rapper, he's a poet, he's a songwriter, he produces, he engineers, he works with all of these people. My friend NAMDEE.
Yes, and this is LexC, Master of the Short Key Insider. Everyone get it.
And today, so I got a bunch of topics that I really want to get out. And I decided I want to talk about these things with other people and get guests onto the YouTube because it's just more fun that way. And I'm trying to be more open this year. So NAMDEE is here to talk about a topic with me, but we haven't talked about it. We haven't chosen it yet. So we got some options here, and he's going to choose one, and whatever it is, that's what we're going to go with.
Okay, let me choose. Let's see what we got. All right, so for all of y'all, drum roll. Oh, I kind of like this.
That's a good one.
Okay, artists. How do you feel about working with engineers for experience versus inexperience?
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that? Well, I guess I'll pop it off since I'm the one that picked it out.
Yes, you're the guest.
I will say that how an artist or somebody deals with an engineer is directly tied to their experience. So what I mean by that is, if you're dealing with an inexperienced engineer and you're an experienced artist, you are probably going to have to maybe micromanage a little bit more than you normally would. So an example of that would be like, you want to make sure, depending on the type of studio it is, whether it's a home studio or a beautiful studio like this, Rich Productions, that the board is zeroed out and everything is leveled. And if they had a previous session before you arrive, that all of that stuff has been cleaned up. You don't want to come in and they're bouncing out tracks, you know what I'm saying? That, like, all that kind of stuff, because that's your time.
I thought you meant like the cleanliness of the studio.
Well, that too, but you know.
Because I've come in and there's been like studios that allow smoking. There will be like guts all over the place.
Everywhere.
Or the Rillo wrappers, you can see it.
Yeah.
Or the cups are all over the place.
So as an experienced artist dealing with an inexperienced engineer, that is what you have to look out for, right? So you'd have to probably micromanage the session a little bit more. Now, if it's flipped, right, and you're an experienced engineer and you are dealing with the inexperienced artist, or let me rephrase that, for my young artists that are dealing with experienced engineers, there are certain things that you do not want to do to piss them off. Do not touch their equipment. They will get mad. Do not touch their equipment. If you want them to do something, that's fine, but do not touch stuff. Like,
don't try to adjust the mic yourself if you know this is like your first time in the studio, especially because a lot of times, and it happens all the time coming in here too, people will come in and they want to try to look like they know what they're doing, even though it's their first or second time at a studio. They try to adjust the microphone. They don't know how to hold it properly. The thing goes down too quickly. You could damage our microphone, or the cable pops off, or something could break, basically. All you got to do is ask the engineer to adjust it for you. It's okay to ask questions or to ask for help.
Yes, because you will probably break something you cannot pay for. Okay.
There's literally thousands of dollars worth of equipment and gear in a studio.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
$50 session is probably not covering that. But anyway.
That just, okay.
$50 an hour. I get kind of savage with these things because yeah.
Oh boy.
Go ahead. Finish
okay. So yeah, but basically that's what I would say. As an inexperienced artist, if you're dealing with an experienced engineer, do not touch their stuff. Allow them to do what they do. A point of order though, warning, because this is the music industry, and even though it's not as vulture as people say that it is still vulture-y. So you also want to make sure that when you come in that everything is zeroed out and all that kind of stuff. And beware of conversation. Because if you start talking to somebody and the time is going, they might try to count that towards your time. So.
I will.
Okay. So with that being said, if you want to have those type of conversations, make sure that they're working conversations. What I mean by that is we're talking while we're working. Mm-hmm. You don't want to spend 10, 15 minutes talking unless you just have that amount of time and you block book, because we don't know what type of booking. But if you're going hourly, you're not going block, things do have to be efficient.
And I would say it's important to be careful of the people you bring with you.
Ooh.
People who understand
True.
Like, we are in here to create something, not just, oh, I brought my boys or I brought my girls so I could impress them so they could see me working in the studio.
They walking in and out, you know, every 5 minutes. Like that really disrupts flow, and it hinders the engineer from paying attention to the most important thing, which is your vocals on your song.
Because I've had people come in and like the people, their friends are like new to the studio, or they weren't like briefed on how to kind of act when they come in, and they'll be trying to ask me questions while I'm supposed to be listening to whoever's in the booth, or they'll be leaning over me. I like my personal space when I'm engineering personally. So I don't like when people are like hovering over my shoulder. I don't mind you asking all the questions, but you do kind of have to understand that the goal of the session is to get the best possible song from the time that you booked. So
Absolutely.
If you have the wrong people that are around you and they're not helping you focus on getting a great song, then you got to be careful of that as well.
Absolutely. And also, just a couple other things. You want to be careful and not be careful. You want to make sure you get your bounces in a timely manner, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, those are the basics. I mean, listen, working with an engineer is not rocket science, all right? It really is, more than anything else, just common sense and being able to interact socially with somebody. You know, that's it. And don't overthink it, because if you overthink it, it's not worth it. It's not, trust me, the creation of a song has so many other processes. Do not overthink working with an engineer. That's actually low-key one of the most relaxing parts of it if you do it right. So
if you have an experienced engineer.
Yes. And to my experienced engineers that are working with inexperienced artists, Godspeed.
Be patient.
Yes, Godspeed.
So I guess I kind of want to make it a little bit more conversational. Have you ever been in a session with an inexperienced engineer?
You know what? I haven't.
Mm.
I have been the inexperienced artist with an experienced engineer.
You got engineer friends.
I do. I
studio.
have plenty of engineer friends who have given me a crash course on not to be that guy.
Mm.
And if you don't know who that guy is, maybe you've been that guy.
Mm.
Because that guy never knows that he's that guy. Or girl. This is 2020. You know?
So, like, what kind of stories have your engineer friends told you about working with inexperienced artists? Or if they're an experienced engineer trying to teach an inexperienced engineer?
The worst thing that can happen is ego. When there is a battle of ego. That'll ruin a session quick.
Mm.
So, for example, especially when there's a knowledge gap, I would say to artists, beware to not try to tell the engineer how to do his job. And what I mean by that is, you can tell the engineer, I want some reverb, or I want this, or I want that. But don't be like to the point where you're not even focusing on what you need to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell an engineer, hey, look, turn this up, and then leave it at that, and then wait for playback, and then see if it actually happened. But you don't want to be, hey, bruh, I told you to turn it up, and you halfway through your take. Like, that's
disrespectful.
That can happen, especially when you're trying to cover up your inexperience with bravado. Don't do that. It's really simple. Like,
and then you'll make the engineer mad, and I won't even want to try to do my best to help you get the best quality song that you could possibly get if you're talking to me sideways.
She's an engineer. So
I haven't engineer.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I would say, the stories that I've heard. Mm-hmm. And but me personally, because I had wonderful engineer friends, for the most part, I stayed away from doing dumb stuff in the studio.
Prepped you.
Yes, they prepped me very much so. So by the time I walked in, I kind of knew, even though I wasn't as knowledgeable about the recording process, at least I was knowledgeable enough about the etiquette, which allowed me to actually learn. Because if the engineer likes you, they will give you pointers and tips.
And sometimes extra time in the session.
Okay.
If we really just mess with you and you got a good demeanor about you and you're speaking respectfully and we can tell like you're serious about your craft, if you are a newer artist, we might be more inclined to like coach you a little bit more, give you more pointers if you're, receptive to it.
Good.
And if the song is
good, anything, you can do anything if the song is good, I promise. Anything is possible.
So I guess, let me see. With an experienced engineer, we help the session to be smoother. The differences between an experienced and an inexperienced engineer.
Tell us. Tell us. Because I know now, but I didn't know for a while. Tell us.
So the biggest difference is going to be someone who knows how to listen to your requests. Even if you're a new artist, it doesn't necessarily matter what kind of verbiage you're using to describe what you want in the song. An experienced engineer will know, like, hey, you know that thing that does this, can you turn it down? Or the little zoop effect, can you get that for me? An experienced engineer will know, okay, that's like a verify, that's a slow down or a speed up effect. I can put that on the vocals. Also, an experienced engineer knows like the short keys. They know when to punch you in, stuff that'll basically make the session smoother. So there have been some people who have come in here and they try to get the cheaper option of the studio of bringing in their own engineer. Come to find out, the engineer doesn't know what they're doing, but they did it because they're trying to save on money.
Are you talking about audio signal flow?
Yes.
You are.
They don't know how to turn the mic on. They don't know what a preamp is. And so if you think about it, you're spending your money hourly and you get an inexperienced engineer and you're thinking you're going to get 2 to 4 songs in 1 hour with an inexperienced engineer. It's not going to happen, especially if you're a newer artist. Absolutely. And I've experienced people coming in trying to do that. And then they got to come back and say, hey, can we just get one of y'all's engineers? Because the dude we brought in the other day, he wasn't really all that. Next thing you know, you've already spent over $100 on a studio session with music you can't use because you had an engineer that wasn't experienced.
You played yourself, kid.
Hard. And we don't want to do that in 2020.
No.
That's why we're doing this video, to help you so you don't make the mistakes that we made.
Don't be that guy or that girl.
Or that girl.
Yeah. Don't be that person.
Yeah. But what else?
That was so politically correct.
That person.
That was so politically correct.
What if they don't want to identify as that being? Don't be that being.
Don't be that being or alien.
We are not the same. I am a Martian.
Okay.
Yeah. What other points we got about experienced engineers? Like,
without getting too technical?
Yeah, because I really want it to be broad for people, for everyone to understand. Like, if you're a newer artist, one way to tell, I already mentioned about an engineer knowing the signal flow and knowing how to like translate what you want. But that also comes from you knowing how to communicate.
Absolutely.
Which NAMDEE mentioned earlier. If you just yelling at the engineer, hey, bruh, turn it up, like in the middle of your session, you're killing the vibe, for one. And you're also not effectively communicating what you want to be done to your song. So come in knowing how to tell people what you want to do, basically. Because at the end of the day, my job as an engineer is to make sure you get what you want before you leave in the time that we have, hopefully. So be able to communicate.
Yes. And so basically, to be perfectly honest, working with an engineer all comes down to communication. Everything comes down to communication. I'm talking about from setting up the session to if you're going to be late, communicate. If you're going to be early, communicate. If you're going to be on time, communicate. Everything in the session is about communication, because at the end of the day, you guys work in tandem. And if you do not communicate, your song will not sound good. I promise you, it won't. You could have a voice like Whitney Houston. If you do not communicate with your engineer, it will not sound good. So communication is essential. Is an essential component of dealing with an engineer, dealing with anybody, but especially with an engineer, because there's a reason why there's a talkback button. Okay, the communication is key. And so for my inexperienced artists, my inexperienced engineers, that's the number one thing I can tell you. Communication is key.
Learn how to talk to people.
Honestly, because you may not know technical terms like timbre or all those kind of EQ, compression. Reverb. You may not be able to know, like, hey, look, man, can you add this delay on the 4th note? Like, you don't have to know all of that stuff.
And they'd be like, what?
Yeah, but
what word that is?
But if you work on your communication skills, you might be able to say, hey, look, I would like you to add like a delay effect or like an echo effect after this syllable or this word. That is just as effective as knowing the technical terms. So, yeah. I don't know. Anything else?
Any other points?
Not for the basics.
I guess an experienced engineer, if you're the kind of person who you're kind of strapped for cash and you find yourself wanting to come in for like a 1 or 2 hour session,
better be nice
and doing like
better be nice.
2 to 4 songs in that time.
Better be nice.
An experienced engineer can help you do that. So
but you got to be nice.
You got to be nice with it.
Polite.
Oh, I thought you meant like lyrically.
No, that like, too.
You better be skilled.
But like you should be skilled. Like I said, but a good song, you can do anything.
Yeah.
But you better be polite. You better be like, yo, like, may I have some more, sir? Like, please, sir. May I have some more time, sir? Like, you need to be polite. Like, I promise.
But really, like, man, because I've had one artist come in, he booked 1 hour, and we were able to literally do 4 songs. Took about like what, 15, 20 minutes each? Probably like 15 minutes each. 15, 30, 45. Yeah, about 15 minutes each. But it's because he was a more experienced artist. He knew to come to the session prepared, like with his stuff already written and already knowing which beats he wanted. And he either sent the beats to me beforehand, or he already had a list of where to get them, or he had a thumb drive with the beats already on there. So it's really a combination of you being professional as an artist and then working with an experienced engineer that's going to make your whole recording experience like A1, right? Absolutely. So this particular person, we got 4 songs done in 4 hours because they already knew what they wanted, and I knew how to work quickly enough to be able to get all that done. Now, I don't like doing 1 hour sessions all the time. I actually would recommend you do at least 2 hours, even for one song, because in my opinion, you're just not going to get the amount of quality performance, the best delivery that you can do if you're trying to rush everything and you feel like you don't have enough time because you got to keep moving.
Absolutely.
And an experienced engineer will tell you some kind of advice like that, like, yo, this would be dope if you just take a little bit more time to zero in on this part, or say this again, or I don't know, add this ad lib here. An experienced engineer will be the difference in your pockets and the difference in your sound quality of your song overall. So hopefully we made some good points that will get you thinking about how you choose your engineer and then how you step into a session, making sure that you're prepared if you are an artist. Did you have any other points you want to make?
One more point, consider like a PS for the artist especially. Whether you're experienced or inexperienced, remember one thing: you are the thermostat of the session. The session goes how you dictate it to go. What I mean,
artist?
Yes,
yeah.
And what I mean by that is whether you have years of experience or you just started yesterday, the engineer is there for you. That doesn't mean that he's your do boy or he's your servant or she's your servant or your do boy. But what I'm basically trying to say is that whatever you put into that session is what you get out. So if you're on your P's and Q's, your session will be on its P's and Q's. Everybody will have to be on their P's and Q's because they can't slack if you're not slacking. If you come in there lackadaisical, the engineer will sit there and get paid for nothing. So you are the thermostat of your own session. Your session.
I've definitely been a button pusher.
Okay.
It's just like, is that cool with you?
That's it.
All right, going to the next part.
Whatever you want out of it is what you will get, but you have to actually set the standard. All right, that's what I got.
And the last thing I want to say, to piggyback off of that, is it's okay to ask questions if you don't understand something or if you're having a hard time communicating. Because the studio I work at, I do client follow-ups. I followed up with a guy who I engineered one of his sessions, and he was telling me how disappointed he was that he didn't get what he wanted. But he told me, like, I remember specifically in that session too, he was speaking to me as if he knew what he was talking about. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, he was kind of like pretending he knew what he was talking about. Come to find out, he didn't get what he wanted because the engineer wasn't giving him enough pointers, wasn't doing what he wanted. So it was like, oh, okay. Did you tell the engineer that? Nah, I didn't really tell the engineer. Like, so how would I have known that you wanted me to be a little bit more hands-on with you, but you didn't tell me?
You the thermostat.
Especially if you're saying things like turn up my reverb or turn down my delay. As an experienced engineer, I'm thinking, all right, this person probably knows a little bit about what they want. They probably recorded a few times and they know how they want their sound to be. Just to find out, you know how heartbreaking that was for me to find out they didn't enjoy that session because they thought the engineer, me, was being like, you know, I don't know, uppity and itch. You know what I'm saying?
You the thermostat artist. If you have a question, even if it's as dumb as what's 1 + 1, ask it because it's your session and you're paying money for it.
Okay. 11?
Yeah, it's 11. It's 11. 1 + 1 is 11, y'all.
Well, yeah.
All right. So yeah, other than that, really, I feel as if we have covered the majority of.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You what?
Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell us some of your experiences with either an experienced engineer or an inexperienced engineer and how that affected your entire session in the comments down below. If you like this video and you like what we talked about and you want to see more guests, give me a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell so you will see my content every time I post something new. To my guest NAMDEE, thank you for being here today.
Pleasure's on mine.
You want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at NAM.DEE. NAMDEE. Once again, NAM.DEE. Holla.
All right. Thank y'all so much. Till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
Peace.